Good evening, you're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, after Greenpeace, the government goes after the Ford Foundation, putting the international NGO on a watch list. That's after the Gujarat government claimed that the foundation's money is being used by activist Teesta Setalvad's NGO to spread communal disharmony. Ironically, the foundation has also funded Gujarat government programs as well. Is the centre's action against the foundation and indeed other NGOs justified?
Is the Ford Foundation becoming a casualty of a Teesta Setalvad versus Gujarat government battle? That's the question after the Home Ministry wrote a letter to RBI asking for the foundation to be put on a watch list. The letter follows this report from the Gujarat government sent last month, which complained that the funds received from the foundation were used by social activist Teesta Setalvad to spread communal disharmony and run an anti-India campaign. But ironically, it's not just NGOs, but even Gujarat government undertakings which have been funded by the foundation in the past. The foundation gave a grant of $1.22 lakh to Gujarat Ecological and Research Foundation or GEAR to expand and strengthen the joint forest management program in Gujarat in 2002. In 2007, another government undertaking, the Gujarat Institute of Desert Ecology or GUIDE, was funded to the tune of $1.76 lakh to undertake applied ecological research in Gujarat's arid lands.
Yet you would not want maybe civil society groups, NGOs to access, maybe for co-work in terms of working for the people and working for the rights of people.
Interestingly, while the Gujarat government has maintained a silence on the funding of its projects by Ford Foundation, the Gujarat BJP denies there was an attempt to target the NGO sector.
We have no problem against any agency. We have problem against the purpose for which it is being used.
Acceptance of funds in 2002 and 2007, and now that very source of funding under a scanner. Many see this as a fallout of the bitter battle between social activist Teesta Setalvad and Gujarat government. And caught in this crossfire, many NGOs who depend on funding from the Ford Foundation. In Ahmedabad, Rohit Ban for NDTV.
The question then is whether the government's action against these NGOs is justified. Joining us on the program tonight, Sambit Patra, spokesperson of the BJP, Tavleen Singh joining us tonight from Mumbai, Priya Pillai of Greenpeace, who had of course had her own battle with the government of India and that has had its own issues with Greenpeace as well. Also John Dayal joins us tonight, well-known civil rights activist. Sambit Patra, I'll take this question to you first. Why did the government suddenly find a problem with the Ford Foundation when in fact the foundation has also, as we pointed out in the story, given funds to Gujarat government programs as well, to other Government of India programs, to many other institutions in this country like the IIT, the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, the Jamia Millia Islamia. There are many other institutions who benefited from their funding. Why suddenly this crackdown on the Ford Foundation?
No, I would say this word, the crackdown on Ford Foundation is absolutely wrong. And you're absolutely right when you point to the fact that Ford Foundation helped a number of the organizations, including the GEAR and others that you were pointing towards. And that's the reason as to why I should read the first 3 lines of the notification by the government for regulating the receipts of foreign contribution by NGOs so that the same is utilized for bona fide welfare activities. I mean, over here what the government has done is it has not taken any action against the Ford Foundation. It has not stopped the Ford Foundation from operating in India. It has not seized the bank accounts of Ford Foundation. All it says that the money that goes to the various recipients of Ford Foundation, the receiving NGOs, it has to go through the process of law. If they are not registered under the FCRA regulation of 2010, then it would not be becoming on their part to receive the money which comes as a foreign contribution from the Ford Foundation. So it has to pass through the clearance of the MHA, and I believe this is the law of the land because in various instances this law was being flaunted.
Isn't that something that's already being done? Why put it on a watch list? Isn't that the first step to saying that we could crack down next and actually cut off your funding the way that happened with Greenpeace?
No, why are we moving towards the next step when the next step has not taken place? And I can assure you there is nothing called as a next step where we are trying to throttle down these NGOs. It is just that the law of the land has to be followed, and as far as the Greenpeace example is concerned, over here I have the whole letter, the notification of the government, where you can see the government has point by point gone ahead as to how the Greenpeace was doing wrong as far as the FRCA regulation was concerned. Via the bank accounts, the non-FCRA registered NGOs to which the Greenpeace had transferred amounts. Bank accounts are there, the amount transferred on the dates are there. So definitely, I mean, the government has taken a stand only to protect the law of the land, not to harass any NGO. I believe I should also add this statement to the discussion over here, that if you have not erred, so why are you worried if you are being observed? If you are right, then be happy even if you are observed by the government.
But you know, Tavleen, there is an important point that Pratap Bhanu Mehta made in his reaction to this entire development yesterday. And he said that every such grant, to quote him, has to be approved by the Department of Economic Affairs, and the second check is that all the recipients also have to be FCRA compliant, and therefore by casting doubts over these grants, are we not doubting the Department of Economic Affairs by implication? Do you think that this was a necessary step, even though there is supposed to be a double layer, at least a double layer check in place?
Okay, two things. One, I'm totally against any kind of ban, and I think this government has been particularly thin-skinned about NGOs. I also believe, and this I think that we have to admit, that some of the funding to certain NGOs has been very linked to the Congress party. Some of the people that the Ford Foundation funds, some of the NGOs that they're funding, have been funded also by the Congress party. Now, that's probably normal because the Congress party has been in power for 60 years, but there is something political here that is worrying. So, you know, on the one hand, we should not be so thin-skinned, and it's quite embarrassing. But on the other hand, these NGOs are pretty dodgy, some of them.
Yeah, but the Ford Foundation's also given money to Jamia, to TIS, to IIT Bombay, to so many other reputed institutions in this country, Tavleen. So the point is that,
Absolutely.
Is there any point in taking this
I
step?
worked for the Ford Foundation. I have no problem.
Yeah.
So I'm not against the Ford Foundation, but I think that some of the NGOs they've selected to fund, including many of whom have ended up in the Aam Aadmi Party, which is a political party. So, you know, you've got to be very careful to not cross the line between social welfare and political activity. And I think that the Ford Foundation was walking a very thin line. And, but that should not mean that they should be on a watch list.
Okay, interesting.
You know, I mean, India is a big
John
enough country
to
to
respond
not
to
be
that.
worried about
An interesting distinction
foundation.
an interesting distinction that Tavleen Singh makes there is that if you're crossing a certain line where you're now funding political activities, then, you know, that's a line that shouldn't be crossed, but they shouldn't be on a watch list either.
Excellent. So anybody who fights elections using Ford Foundation money should be disqualified instantly, and any other activity which the Election Commission and the Supreme Court and the Government of India define as political activity. But opposing Mr. Modi's policies, at a personal level disliking his beard, I love beards myself, or any other activity which shows your political inclinations is not political activity under the law. And therefore, it is absolutely paranoidal, illegal in fact, to carry out the sort of stuff that the Home Ministry is trying to do. That is coercion, that is limiting the space for civil society, and that is very dangerous for democracy, and anything that is a danger to democracy is anti-national.
But as Sambit Patra says, nothing's happened yet. It's a watch list.
No, I want to answer Father John Dayal as well.
No, I'll get John Dayal to respond to that first, Sambit. Let me just get, I mean, when Sambit says that, look, nothing's happened, it's a watch list, so what? That's his, you know, it's not actually cutting down their funding.
There are existing laws. Nothing exactly has happened. So what is the paranoia about?
Okay, and let me get Priya Pilay's first comment, Sambit, before I come back to you.
Yeah, so as Tavleen was saying, the issue is political. I also totally agree the issue is political, because when the money of Ford Foundation comes to the government and it is used by the government, there is no issue. But when it's used to protect minority rights in this country, there is a political issue out there. So that money is stopped when the minority rights come into question. Similarly, when money is being used for tribal communities, marginalized communities, it comes with a caption, it becomes political, Yes, definitely it's political, but political in what sense is something that we want to understand. Also, if you look at it, there are two stakeholders here. There are tribals, marginalized communities, minorities in this country. And people who are working to protect their rights become anti-nationals. People who work to protect their rights become, against the development of this country, against national security. And on the other hand, you have Adanis, you have Reliance, you have Tatas, and you have a government that is diluting laws, you have a government that is changing laws, you have a government that is bringing in the land ordinance, you have a government that is diluting FRA to promote corporate takeover, and that is supposed to be in national interest. So who defines national interest is another question that we need to definitely talk about it. And Sambit spoke about, why the hurry, at least I can say from my experience about Greenpeace, Tavleen, let me complete. What I can say from our experience at Greenpeace is that majority of our funds are domestic. Why did the government block our domestic accounts? They've blocked 7 of our accounts, which includes money that comes from more than 3 lakh supporters in India. So we are not saying that, if there is FCRA violation.
Dissent.
Yes.
You're saying it's that.
Exactly. Because we've been talking for tribal rights, because we've been talking about, we've been dissenting, because we've been raising our voice against certain issues, criticizing the government, we are being targeted. There is a crackdown on us. So that is political. We totally understand. But you cannot shrink democratic.
Okay, let me get Sambit to first respond to that. Sambit Patra, you've heard the criticism there.
Yes.
That, is it because the government doesn't like those NGOs?
No.
That
Let
disagree with its point of view? How come the Ford Foundation is okay when it gives to, government-run institutions, other institutions, the Gujarat government, but it's not okay when it gives that money to Teesta?
No, Nidhi, hope you have gone through the letter that the government has issued yesterday. That is on 23rd, day before yesterday itself. Read out the last lines. Government organizations can avail of foreign funding only with clearance of Department of Economic Affairs. So to say that the government needs no clearance is absolutely wrong. So a lie was peddled over here. I wanted to correct that with facts. Now, secondly, I was hearing my friend Priya Pillai saying generic things, but I over here have specifics, account numbers, money transfer, the laws which have been violated by the Greenpeace. If you wish, it will take some time, but I can read that out. And the 16-point question was recently sent to the Greenpeace. The Greenpeace has rebutted back, and the thing has gone to the court as well. The court has not reacted.
That is FCRA.
I am talking on specifics. What about?
You are talking about FCRA. That's a different process. But what about blocking domestic accounts?
No, you went to the court. You went to the court. What did the court say? I have the court judgment also along with me. Let me read out the court judgment.
No, please talk about facts. You blocked even our domestic accounts, and you are questioning our charity status. So this is this is a crackdown.
The truth always
this is a crackdown on dissenting.
One second.
If this is not a crackdown, what is a crackdown?
Exactly.
But Tavleen, the question here is that there is Sambit. One second. I'll just come back to you. Tavleen, the point is that there is a very public, well-known battle that is playing out currently between Teesta Setalvad on one hand and her organizations and the Gujarat government on the other. Do you think that what is happening with the Ford Foundation then is a result of that? Has the Ford Foundation got sucked into that entire battle? Sorry, Tavleen, if you can hear me.
Who are you asking?
You. I'm asking you that question.
Yeah, okay. No, sorry, I didn't. Yes, I'm very glad you're asking me that question, because I think Teesta played a very political role. If you take a close look at the causes, the communal causes that Teesta and her husband have picked up, they've always been somehow in Gujarat against the Gujarat government. There have been thousands of riots before then, which Teesta Setalvad was not worried about. So, secondly, Teesta Setalvad has a very close connection with the Congress party. Now, that's a political role.